Hari Om. Om Gajananam Bhutaganadisevitam Kapitha Jambo Phalasara Pakshitam Umasutam Shoka Vinashakaranam Namami Vigneshwara Pada Pankajam. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste. Welcome to DISHA 10, a new series of an inward journey to discover our inner strength and happiness through Bhagavad Gita. Today, we are going to commence study of third chapter, Karma Yoga, with the first 7 verses. We will also touch upon Karma Yoga as an overview of right action and right attitude, based on the teaching of our Guru, Swami Paramarthanandaji. Later, Dr. Hegde sir will take up the story part, followed by teaching quiz, which will be handled by Sri Ullas. Before Sir gives us introduction to the day's topic, let us listen to Srimati Pannaga, who is going to chant and explain the third stanza of Ganesha Stuti, Jagat Karanam Karana Jnana Rupam. Pannaga, please.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. We come to the last of the 3 shlokas which glorify the Nirguna Brahman embodied in Lord Ganesha's divine form. We began with Ajam Nirvikalpam and then went on to see the Gunatitamanam verse. Let us now chant the third shloka. Jagat Karanam Karanagnana Rupam Suradim Sukhadim Gunesham Ganesham Jagadvapinam Vishwavandhyam Suresham Parabrahmarupam Ganesham Bhajema. These are very easy to understand words, as we have already heard them being explained in our Bhagavad Gita classes, where Krishna talks about the features of the Atma. In the next slide, we see the word by word meaning. Jagat Karanam. O Lord Ganesha, you are the cause of the universe. Karana Jnana Rupam, the symbol of that first cause or the primal knowledge. Suradim, Sura plus Adim, the origin of the Suras, that is the Devas. Sukhadim, Sukha plus Adim, the origin of Sukha or Ananda. Gunesham, that is Guna plus Isha, the Lord of the Gunas. Here we must remember that in the last class, Lord Ganesha was described as being over and above all the gunas, as Gunatita. So here we know that he is Gunatita and also he is the Lord of all the gunas. Ganesham, that is Gana plus Isha, he is the Lord of the Ganas, Lord Shiva's army. Jagadvapinam, O Lord Ganesha, you pervade the universe. Vishwavandhyam, you are worshipped by everyone in the world. Suresham, that is Sura plus Isha. So Lord Ganesha is not only the origin of the Devas. In this verse too, we can see that all the glorification is of that Supreme Lord who is the origin of the universe and pervades the entire creation. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna tells Arjuna the same truth, that he is present everywhere. Sarva Kshetreshu Bharata. Therefore, we ultimately arrive at the Parabrahma, the pure consciousness principle, who Lord Krishna and Lord Ganesha represent. Next slide, sir. This verse concludes the description of Ganesha as the symbolic representation of the Ajam, Nirvikalpam, Nirvikara, Gunatita, Chidananda Rupa Brahman, to whom we offer our prayers. Next slide, sir. Meditating upon these 3 verses allows us to elevate our spiritual practice from Ekarupa Upasana to Vedantic Nididhyasana. Hari Om. Thank you.
Thank you, Pannaga, for a very clear explanation of a very nice verse. Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Bande Guru Paramparam. Om. We continue our study of the Bhagavad Gita, this time with a very specific focus called DISHA, discovery of inner strength and happiness through the Bhagavad Gita. So we are re-looking at like a revision class, and the beauty of the Gita is each time we study it, we see a deeper insights. But now we would like to see how what we are going to study can impact our daily life. The theme for today is Karma Yoga, and Karma Yoga to be seen as a sadhana. A sadhana means a spiritual exercise. Any sadhana has a sadhyam, has got a goal. And what is the sadhyam or the goal of Karma Yoga? Let us be very clear. One, it has got two important goals. One is to get us jñāna yogyata, to get us eligibility for jnana yoga. Jnana yoga being so refined is not possible without a certain eligibility, and this prepares our mind. Second is to be able to interact with the world, we have to interact with the mind. Mana eva manushyanam karana bandha mokshaye. Now, how do I train my mind to work towards freedom? My mind has got all the impurities, kama, krodha, lobha, mada, matsarya. And just like you need to have a bath every day to purify your body, the mind needs a constant form of a purification. In Sanskrit, is called chitta shuddhi. So therefore, without wasting any time, that means Karma Yoga is a sadhana which can be done as part of our daily activity, with the only exception of Pancha Mahayajna, which you will hear Venkatesh Prasad explain in very detail today. What we need to do is all our daily actions. There is nothing mundane or there is nothing religious as far as Karma Yoga. Every action, including those that we do for our own body, can be taken as an opportunity to do a sadhana. As we wake up in the morning, we have a to-do list. I have this to do. And sometimes you say, I have a very busy day. I have so many things to do. Now you say, today I have so many forms of sadhanas to do. Let each of them become a sadhana. That means your sadhana does not come to the end when you finish your morning or evening prayers. It continues all through the day. Let me warn you, and great acharyas have said few things about Karma Yoga. It is not an easy sadhana. It is a difficult sadhana. Why is it a difficult sadhana? If you have to be a karma yogi, your actions should be right. Your actions should be predominantly sattvic. There should be no prohibited actions in thought, in word, in deed. And therefore, many of the actions which we tend to do in the course of the daily life can come in the way of our sadhana. Second is Karma Yoga is right attitude. Ishvara prasada buddhi. To be able to accept everything that happens as prasada is not easy. It requires a certain mental training. Therefore, it is difficult. And very difficult is every action that I do, can I bring it with a lot of gratefulness? What an opportunity I have today to be able to work. So you have the gratefulness to be able to serve. And how do I do it? With a deep sense of awareness that you're doing it for someone who you really love and care. Today, in addition to the whole topic of Karma Yoga, which we'll be listening again through the DISHA presentation by Venkatesh Prasad, we will study the first 7 verses of the 3rd chapter. Now, I'm going to give you a preview. Venkatesh Prasad will be explaining each of these verses. Now, this is how the 3rd chapter begins. And the key word, I have taken key words in each of these 7 verses. Jayase is the key word here. Chet karmanaste. Now, Jayase means superior. So, Krishna is being questioned by Arjuna. Arjuna begins with a question and saying, Mata, in your opinion, Buddhir, O Janardana, you think that Jnana Yoga is superior to Karma Yoga. And if you feel Jnana Yoga is superior to Karma Yoga, why are you forcing me to do this terrible action? So remember, the key word in the first word is Jayasi, superior. So we come to a discussion, is one sadhana superior to another sadhana? Let us see what this discussion will go on. The second verse begins with another important verse. Vyamishreneva. Vyamishrene eva. Eva means it appears to me that you are using confusing language. So Arjuna now becomes more polite in his questioning. He says, I am getting confused by the way you have given me a lot of importance to Jnana Yoga and you're forcing me. So the key word in the second verse is Vyamishreneva. In the third verse, I would focus on this word Pura Prokta. Remember, in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna comes only once, and there he is admonishing Arjuna. In the second chapter, Krishna introduces Jnana Yoga, then Karma Yoga, and then the Sthita Prajna portion. Now here, in this third verse, which Swami Dayananda considers is among the 10 very important verses of the entire Bhagavad Gita, this verse is particularly important, and when Venkatesh Prasad is explaining this verse, pay attention. This is an important verse. I have highlighted Pura Prokta for a particular reason. The reason being, it is for the first time Shri Krishna is declaring that he is an avatara. He is not an ordinary human being. He's saying, Puratana, long back, I have established a certain process. I have established a certain nishta. I have established certain lifestyles. As you will see, this verse will tell us that you have a choice regarding lifestyle, but there is no choice as far as sadhana is concerned. Listen to Venkatesh Prasad. And this is what is called the Adhikari Veda. That means some people are prone to or are happy to have what is called a pravritti marga. That means a life of a recluse. Very few people. Most of us are pravritti. That means we are into activity. Very few people can go into nivritti. Nivritti means withdrawal. So a person who is inclined to a life of withdrawal, moves away from the family, is secluded. For such a person, only sanyāsa āśrama is available. We now come to the fourth verse. The fourth verse, the key word that I will focus is on naishkarmyam. One of Adi Shankara's direct disciples, Sureshwaracharya, has written an entire work called Naishkarmyam Siddhi. The word Naishkarmyam here means moksha. Karmana anarambha. That means by not doing action, by just becoming a sannyasi, withdrawing from all your responsibilities, you will never attain to moksha. So Krishna is warning that it is impossible to stay without activity, and he explains it in the next verse. In the next verse, kaschit kshanamapi. Even for a second, it is impossible for all of us who are prakritir gunaihi. That means we have all the gunas of prakriti. There is the rajasic spirit in us, and that forces us into activity, and it is difficult to stay without activity. Then there is another verse, that is the sixth verse, and I have focused on manasa smaran, which means once a person enters into various forms of sadhanas, a person may control his sense organs. He may control his activity. He may sit in a secluded place. But then it is extremely difficult, Shri Krishna says, to be able to control your mind. So what is happening? Manasa smaran. The mind tends to ruminate. Although now I have decided to focus on dharma and moksha, but artha kama thoughts keep on coming. And if a person is pursuing a spiritual path and is continuing to entertain artha and kama, Shri Krishna uses a very strong word, a mithyachara. Such a person can become a mithyachara. In the earlier chapter, in the second chapter, in the Sthita Prajna portion, verse 59, there is a nice verse called Param Drishtva Nivartate. Now, if I'm entertaining kama thoughts, artha thoughts, and I'm in a spiritual path, how do I work on it? Shri Krishna says, work on param drishtva. Param Drishtva is to see yourself from the higher angle. See yourself as I am Atma Brahma. And the more you see that, nivartate, these thoughts, artha kama thoughts will drop. But then there is a certain sadhana that you need to do. You need to put that Shri Krishna principle on the driver's seat, which in the verse 61 is called as Yukta Asita Matparaha. And finally, the last verse that we are going to study today is where Shri Krishna consolidates and says, such a person is vishishyate. Such a person I appreciate. Such a person is a real karma yogi because he is able to now use his mind to control his sense organs. He continues to be in the field of activity. Although he continues to be, the word important is asaktaha. A person is not really bound by the outcome of his karma. He is certainly concerned that his activity goes out well, but then such a person is, his happiness, his fulfillment is not bound by the outcome of one's karma. With this background, let us listen to Venkatesh Prasad. Over to you, Venkatesh.
Thank you, sir. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Friends, this presentation is based on the teaching of our Guru, Swami Paramarthanandaji, on this topic of Karma Yoga. With a reverential pranams at the lotus feet of Pujya Swamiji, let us get on with our study. First, we will cover the topic of Karma Yoga as taught by Swamiji, and then later we'll go to the Bhagavad Gita shlokas. As we go to the next slide, we may recollect session 2 of DISHA when Dr. Divakar had covered a topic on Purushartha, the fourfold human goals of life, Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. To help us to fulfill these goals, scriptures have provided the required infrastructure by way of varnāśrama, namely Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sanyāsa. In addition, scriptures have also provided us a course of discipline to accomplish these human goals. These human goals include material accomplishments, Dharma, Artha, Kama, and spiritual accomplishments, Moksha. Scriptures say all the material accomplishments should culminate in spiritual accomplishment of Moksha. And therefore, the scriptures keep the material accomplishments as incidental goals and the spiritual accomplishment as the ultimate and primary goal of life. The course of discipline prescribed by Shastras is called sadhana. This entire course of sadhana is classified into 3 levels. As we have been earlier, all 3 are not alternatives, but are equally important and compulsory, just like every step of a staircase is important to reach the top. The 3 levels are Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. Today, we are focusing on Karma Yoga. Next slide, sir. Karma Yoga. Let us see what is Karma Yoga, which is right action with right attitude. Karma Yoga is a compound word consisting of 2 words, karma and yoga. The word karma in this context refers to proper action or appropriate action. The word yoga means proper attitude or appropriate attitude, bhavana in Sanskrit. In simple language, Karma Yoga is nothing but proper action with proper attitude. Now, we have to understand what is meant by proper action. Let us move on to the next slide, which speaks about karma, the right action. All the human actions possible for us are broadly classified into 3 types of scriptures in the scriptures. This is based on their spiritual influence on the human beings. The 3 categories are Uttama Karma, those karmas which have maximum positive spiritual influence. Madhyama Karma, intermediary one, those karmas which have got limited or nil spiritual influence. Number 3 is Adhama Karma, those actions which have got a negative spiritual contribution and cause spiritual downfall or retrogression. Now, let us try to understand each of these karmas. Uttama Karmani, best actions. This is otherwise known as Sattvika Karma. Uttama Karma or Sattvika Karma is defined as Paropakara Karma. All those actions which will benefit maximum number of beings. where you help or contribute towards others' well-being. The Paropakara Karmani is greatly prized in our scriptures. As we see in the new slide, there is a verse that says, Paropakaraya vahanti nadayaha, Paropakaraya duhanti gavaha, Paropakaraya phalanti vrikshaha, Paropakarartham idam shariram. Trees give fruit for the charity, rivers flow for charity, and cows give milk for charity. That is, this body is also for charity. In short, Uttama karmas are those karmas where you give more and take less. So, the greater is your giving, the greater is your growing. Therefore, our culture is a giving or dhanam or tyagam culture, whereas a materialistic is a grabbing culture. As can be seen in the next slide, Paropakara karmas are otherwise called nishkama karmani. Thus, all these words are synonymous. Uttama karmani, Sattvika karmani, Paropakara karmani, or nishkama karmani. They contribute to the maximum spiritual growth. Next slide, sir. What is this Paropakara karmani? Scriptures have identified these Paropakara karmas as or presented as Pancha Mahayagna, the fivefold yagna. In these 5 yagna, I'll be contributing to the welfare of the world. Pancha Mahayagna encompasses all the components of this creation. In other words, PMY, Pancha Mahayagna, is Karma Yoga, the right action and right attitude. Let us go at the beat in this Nitya Yagna. Pancha Mahayagna are Deva Yagna, Pitriyakta, Brahma Yagna, Manushya Yagna, and Bhuta Yagna. Following shloka in the next slide explains these 5 yagnas. Adhyapanam Brahma Yagnaha, Pitriyagnastu Tarpanam, Homo Daivo Balirbhutaha, Nriyagno Triti Pujanam. By performing oblations with ghee, the demigods are satisfied. By studying the Vedas, Brahma Yagna is performed, and by this, the great sages are satisfied. Offering oblations of water before one's forefathers is called Pitriyakta. By offering tabut, Bhuta Yagna is performed. By properly receiving guests, Nriyagna is performed. As we see the Shanti Mantra in the next slide, let us know about the first Yagna. Deva Yagna, remembrance of divine. The first Yagna is called Deva Yagna. This is the first and foremost Paropakara karma. And in this Deva Yagna, worship and prayer of God, I just stand in front of the Lord and with my full and total heart utter a prayer. The prayer is the noblest one known in the scriptures. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. May everybody be happy. May everybody be free from disease. May everybody have good luck, and may none fall on evil days. A sincere, heartfelt, deep prayer is the most powerful contribution which will help not only the entire humanity, animals, and plants, but it goes beyond the terrestrial plane to 14 lokas. So this is the most extensive and least expensive Paropakara karma. And along with this prayer, if you offer something to the Lord, whatever you offer will also be distributed to the entire creation. People in the field of charity say Manava Seva is Madhava Seva, and they look down upon religious people who go to the temple. What they fail to realize is Madhava Seva results in Manava Seva multifold to the areas where these philanthropists cannot even think of reaching. Therefore, Madhava Seva or Deva Yagna is the first and most expensive, least expensive Paropakara. And this is to be done every day on daily basis. With the next slide, let's move on to other yagnas. Pitriyakta, remembrance of ancestors. This is the second yagna. In each one of them, there is an expression of gratitude. Gratitude plus upakara is yagna. In this yagna, I express my gratitude to all my forefathers because of whom I am here. But what is Paropakara in this? You are thinking of your father and your forefathers only. This Pitru Karma contributes to another special fund towards those who do not get Shraddham for various reasons. For all such ancestors, let my offering go. All the Pitriyakta, like Shraddham or Tarpanam or great Paropakara Karma. Brahma Yajna, remembrance of rishis. The third yajna is called Brahma Yajna. This is expressing my gratitude to all the rishis who have given the Vedas and other secondary scriptures. Brahma means Veda here, and Brahma Yajna means Veda Yajna, in which I worship scriptures and the authors of the scriptures, the discoverers of the scriptures, the rishis. It is because of them alone that I am enjoying this wonderful holistic culture. This will help preservation and propagation of the scriptural teaching to the humanity, which is the very intention of these rishis. This is done by Parayanam and Adhyapanam of scriptures, making them Brahma Yajna. In fact, scriptural teaching is the best form of Brahma Yajna. Previously, Brahma Yajna was there in Gurukula Sampradaya, where this teaching was given. This Sampradaya faded over the years, and if it has been revived to a certain extent, the credit goes to Swami Chinmayananda and Swami Dayananda. Thus, Brahma Yajna also comes under Paropakara because Vidya Danam Sarvadanat Pradhanam. Next is Manushya Yajna, remembrance of humanity. The fourth Yajna is Manushya Yajna. All forms of social services like running orphanages, helping old people who cannot have any help, building schools, hospitals, and running them, etc. will come under this. This doesn't mean that Manushya Yajna can replace all the other four yajnas. In addition to Manushya Yajna, we have to handle other yajnas also. As I said earlier, this is Madhava Seva through Manava Seva. Doesn't need any mention that this is also Paropakara Karma. Bhuta Yajna, remembrance of non-human living beings. This is the fifth yajna, Bhuta Yajna, all forms of contribution to all non-human living beings. I should remember that all the other living beings are also contributing to my happy life. This has been proved only now with the study of ecology. Therefore, I should remember the animals, the plants, and just as they are helping for my survival, I should also contribute towards their survival. This is awareness of the totality. Vaidika means universal citizen. This is because he is aware of this world. He remembers the stars and planets. This grand awareness is called Panchamahayajna. This is called Nishkama Karmani, Sattvika Karmani, Uttama Karmani, Paropakara Karmani. They will contribute to the spiritual growth primarily. Now, we have studied the Uttama Karmani. We'll go to the Madhyama Karmani, middle actions. These are the second set of karmas. These are all the Sakama Karmani, selfish actions, or Rajasa Karmani. They are also called Para Udasana Karmani. Para Udasana Karma means those actions in which I ignore other people and am indifferent to others, where I don't bother about even their existence or problems. I am concerned only about my selfish karmas. They will help in the material well-being, but they do not contribute much to the spiritual growth, either nil or limited. All kamya karmas, selfish karmas, whether ritualistic or non-ritualistic, come under Madhyama Karmani. Next is Adhama Karmani, worst actions. Finally comes Adhama Karmas, Tamasa Karmani, or Nishiddha Karmani. Prohibited actions or corrupted actions or destructive actions are Para Apakara Karmani. In this, I may be benefited, but it is harmful to others. And these karmani, not only do they not help us spiritually, but also brings us down spiritually. Hence, the first one leads to spiritual elevation, second one leads to spiritual stagnation, and the third one leads to spiritual retrogression. These are the three karmani introduced by the scriptures. Now, with the next slide, let us try to understand yoga, that is right attitude. Any attitude is born out of right understanding. One can never develop a healthy and lasting attitude unless he understands the principles. When you do an action, it has left your hand and control, and it becomes a part of the universe. And all universal laws will act on karmas, just like it applies on everything in creation. Karma, thus processed, is called phala. The scriptures point out all the universal laws are tools in the hands of the Lord to maintain the harmony of creation, which means the processing is done by God himself through his tool of universal laws. Therefore, karma is going to God for processing and is coming from the Lord in a processed form called phalam. The moment you know this fact and remember this, every karma becomes Ishvara Arpana, and this is called Ishvara Arpana Bhavana, born out of this awareness. And when I perform the actions out of Ishvara Arpana Bhavana and receive the processed karma in the form of phalam, I don't call it karma phala, but I call it Ishvara Prasada, because what comes from God is a prasada, is sacred, and therefore cannot be rejected or criticized, received with a sense of fulfillment. Ishvara Arpana Bhavana in action and Ishvara Prasada Bhavana in phalam are known as yoga. With this bhavana, I enjoy an equanimous mind. Samatvam yoga uchyate. I am enthusiastic in every action. There is no dullness, there is no drudgery or boredom, because every action is offering to the Lord. Hence, I love everything that I do and accept all experiences in life because they are Ishvara Prasada, which will lead to Samatva. Samatva Bhavana is the result of Ishvara Arpana Prasada Bhavana. These two put together will lead to very fast spiritual growth. This is called Chitta Shuddhi, that will prepare us for Jnana Yoga. Next slide, sir. After going through this Karma Yoga, now let us see what Krishna has to say about Karma Yoga. After giving a glimpse of the topic in second chapter, he devotes an entire chapter to discuss Karma Yoga. We will take up the first 7 verses and look at how Krishna unveils his teaching. Background to this third chapter called Karma Yoga is Arjuna's doubts based on Krishna's teaching in the previous chapter. Though Krishna has been crystal clear, Arjuna raises doubts due to his filtered listening and tries to get Krishna tell him what he wants to listen. That is, give up war and study scriptures. He wants to escape from the battlefield. It is also possible, to the benefit of Arjuna, that Arjuna got confused as Krishna has emphasized jnāna in the very beginning of the teaching, and at the end of the second chapter also, Krishna has emphasized jnāna alone. Talking about Sthita Prajna elaborately, Krishna spent 17 to 18 shlokas or more to talk about the greatness of Jnana. Let us see what Arjuna asked Krishna. Next slide, sir. Jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhir janardana tat kim karmani ghore mam niyojayasi Keshava. He is asking Krishna, if you feel Jnana Yoga is the only means of liberation and is superior to Karma Yoga, why are you pushing me to this cruel Karma Yoga? He fine-tunes his question in the next shloka and says he is confused by the words of Krishna and has to tell clearly which path he has to take up, Jnana Yoga or Karma Yoga. Let's go to the next slide and shloka 2. Vyamishreneva vakyena buddhim mohayasiva me tadekam vada nishchitya yena shreyoham apnayam. Tell me very clearly which is the better for me to get shreyas. Here, Arjuna is under a wrong impression that he has a choice between the two. Actually, there is no choice between Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. There is no question which is better. It makes sense if I ask which pant I have to wear between the two or which of the two shirts. But if I ask if I have to wear pant or shirt, it looks ridiculous. Shastras prescribe very clearly Jnana Yoga is the only means of liberation. Choice is whether you want moksha or not. If you are a mumukshu, you will have to follow Jnana Yoga. As we go to the next slide, moksha can be attained only through Jnana Yoga. And if I have to take up Jnana Yoga, I should possess certain basic qualifications. Here, the qualifications are purity, maturity, and detachment. And these qualifications can be acquired only through Karma Yoga. So, moksha can be attained through Jnana Yoga and qualifications can be acquired by Karma Yoga. In other words, follow Karma Yoga and acquire qualifications or Jnana Yogita. Follow Jnana Yoga and attain moksha. It is settled that we have only 2 paths to follow and they are Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. Any other yoga like Ashtanga Yoga, Japa Yoga and all other types of meditation falls under Karma Yoga. Krishna says, No doubt you have to follow both yogas, but there are two lifestyles to follow these two yogas. One is Pravritti Marga and the other is Nivritti Marga. Pravritti Marga is for those who are in grihasthāśrama, which is full of action, responsibility towards your family, children, society, etc. One can indulge in all these activities without any attachment and perform Pancha Mahayagna and also take up Jnana Yoga, either continuing in grihasthāśrama or taking sanyāsa after some time. Nivritti Marga or sanyāsa is a life of inaction, but not without Karma Yoga. A sannyasi is supposed to devote his maximum time to Jnana Yoga along with sanyāsa vihita karma like japa. Further, though there is a choice between grihasthāśrama and sanyāsa, 95 to 99% of people are not made of sanyāsa, made for sanyāsa. An unfit sannyasi will bring disrepute to that ashrama, but a grihastha can enjoy all the worldly pleasures within the ambit of dharma and pursue Jnana Yoga followed by sannyasi. A Jnani grihastha is superior to an Jnani sannyasi. Hence, Krishna advises Arjuna to be a grihastha and follow both yogas. He gives his own example of being a grihastha and still follows Jnana Yoga. Krishna responds to Arjuna's question in detail in this chapter. From shloka 3 to 7, he gives introduction and clarity about Karma Yoga. Next slide, sir. Krishna tells here, Lokesmin vividha nishtha pura prokta mayanagha Jnana yogena sankhyanam karma yogena yoginam. Sir has explained about pura prokta. Now, Krishna is talking about two yogas, Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. We are all born ayogyas. Ayogya means unfit for Jnana Yoga. The scriptures themselves present Jnana Yoga only at the end of the Vedas. If we are all fit for Jnana Yoga, we can start with the Jnana Yoga. Then Jnana Yoga will be Purva Bhaga and Karma Yoga will not be Anta Bhaga, because after Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga is not required. Therefore, the whole Veda will be Jnana Yoga only. The very fact that the Jnana Kanda is at the very end of the Veda, that Veda wants us to prepare us for that. And of course, there are exceptions to the rules like Bhagavan Ramana, who went to Jnana Yoga very young. Parallelly, scriptures talk about the lifestyle also along with the sādhanās. Lifestyle means āśrama. In this context, we discuss only two āśrama which are relevant. Grihastha, a householder's lifestyle, and sanyāsa, a renunciate's lifestyle. Grihasthāśrama is karma pradhana ashrama, sanyāsa is jnana pradhana ashrama. So therefore, there are three routes are prescribed to attain the liberation. Number one, go to grihasthāśrama, follow karma yoga, and switch over to sanyāsa to follow jnana yoga to be free. Number two, take to grihasthāśrama, follow karma yoga, purify, continue in same ashrama and follow jnana yoga and be free. The third way is straight away take to sanyāsa and follow jnana yoga. Next slide, sir. Krishna gives three reasons, arguments why karma yoga should not be neglected in next three shlokas 4, 5, and 6. Shloka 4. By avoiding karma or action, liberation is not guaranteed. You cannot avoid samsara. By avoiding duties and responsibilities, you will not get peace of mind. The first reason he gives in this shloka is that by avoiding action or giving up action, you cannot get moksha. You cannot avoid samsara. You cannot get peace of mind by running away from the duty and responsibility of the family, because it is always that bank is greener than this bank. In the second line, Krishna further says, mere renunciation or detachment also cannot give liberation. It should be blessed with, supported by jnana. Shloka 5 says, avoiding karma or action is totally impossible for a human being. Every person is guided by his svabhava, and his svabhava are governed by gunas. The second argument is giving up of action is impossible because everybody will be forced to do some action or the other, governed by his character, and therefore Krishna said, Kshanamapi akarmakat natishtati. A person cannot remain actionless even for a moment. You may give up physical actions. The more you give up physical actions, and the mind becomes proportionately doubly active. You know that when you try meditation, when you try japa, you will find the mind seems to be so agile and active and runs all over the world within a second. Therefore, jatu kshanamapi, even for a moment, a person cannot remain quiet. Why it is so? Because prakrujait gunai karyate. Every person is forced to do one action or the other by the three gunas of Prakriti. Now, let's go to the third argument in the next verse, Shloka 6. Not only inaction will not give moksha, not only it is impossible, but it may be a risky proposition and it is dangerous also. Because when you have nothing to do, your mind will become a devil's workshop. When you try to quieten your mind, all the suppressed desires come to the fore and start fantasizing them. You will be called mithyachari. So, indriyarthan should go with manasa smaran. Indriyarthan vibodhatma mithyacharah sauchyate. He is a hypocrite. And therefore, the third reason is what? Inaction is dangerous. And therefore, Arjuna, do not think of sanyāsa. Do not think of an action. Think of an active life. How to do that? That is going to be given in the next shloka number 7. Next slide, sir. In shloka 7, he declares one who controls his sense organs and engages in action without attachment is the best. The ideal āśrama, according to Krishna, is grihasthāśrama, where there is a scope for contribution so that I can cleanse myself, and for fulfilling arthakama desires. Parallelly, it is an ideal āśrama for service to society also. Indriyani manasa niyamya. As a grihastha, as an active person in society, let him regulate his sense organs first before fulfilling his arthakama. But under one condition, indriyani niyamya. By regulating the sense organs, which means without violating dharma, morality. How to control the sense organs? Manasa means by discrimination of what is right and what is wrong, and what is moderate and what is not moderate. The intellect must assess, judge, and decide, controlling the mind. Controlling is not suppression. Controlling is regulating, and having mastered and managed the sense organs, jnanendriyani, what should we do? Karma yogam arabhate. One should take to karma yoga, and that too how? Asaktaha, without getting attached to anything. Such a person who follows karma yoga is vishishyate. He excels. Krishna's class on karma yoga continues. Hari Om. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Venkatesh. It was a very nice and lucid presentation where you emphasized all the fundamentals of karma yoga with great emphasis on Pancha Mahayajna, that this is para upakari, that we need to be able to spend on enough time on Deva Yajna. You gave a lot of importance. Brahma Yajna, exactly what we are doing, the scriptural study. Pitriyakta, Manusya Yajna, and Bhuta Yajna. In addition, the first 7 verses of the 3rd chapter were very nicely explained. If you Google about the various margas of Hinduism, you will immediately see that there are 4 paths in Hinduism. That means for those who are inclined, you can take the path of karma. Those who are inclined for activity, take the path of karma yoga. For a person who is intellectual, can take the path of jnāna yoga. For a person who is emotional and has a lot of devotion, take the path of bhakti yoga. And for those who are inclined to meditate, the path is raja yoga. This is not there in our traditions, but it has been there in the last 100 years, and it has become very popularized by many schools, which our teacher and his guru, Swami Dayananda, very strongly say, this is not possible at all. And these are people who have gone through the path, because they say very clearly, there is no choice as far as sadhanas are concerned. And they give a traditional example of cooking rice. Supposing you have to cook rice and you're given water, you're given a pot, and you're given a fire. And can you say which is more important? All of them are important. All sadhanas are important. If at all there is a choice, there is a choice as far as the lifestyle is concerned. But as far as sadhanas are concerned, all the sadhanas are required. Jnana yoga, our teachers emphasize very, very strongly as the only means for liberation. For jnana yoga, jnana yogyata or eligibility is required. And for jnana yogyata is possible only through karma yoga. So in conclusion, by studying these first 7 verses we have studied, by just avoiding karma, that does not guarantee peace of mind or moksha. Inaction at our level is impossible because of the force of our gunas, and our idle mind becomes the devil's workshop and all suppressed desires come up. So what do we conclude from the study so far? Without karma yoga, jnana yoga is impossible. Without jnana yoga, karma yoga is incomplete. Therefore, follow karma yoga, get jnana yogyata, get jnanam, and be free. In our DISHA sessions, we now have a teaching quiz to see how well we have listened to all this. And a teaching quiz is a collective work of Shri Ullas, Dr. Kiran, and Dr. Anupama. I will request Shri Ullas to conduct this quiz. Ullas, please.
Thank you, sir. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. I think Venkatesh ji has covered it already very well, and sir has again summarized it. So maybe this question is not very difficult. The first question is, which one is superior? Is it Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga? I think we all know that comparison can only be done between some 2 things which are similar, which can be compared, but 2 things which are both essential in some endeavor. You cannot really compare those 2. As sir said, for making rice, all of those equipments, all of those ingredients are necessary. So similarly here also, whether an IIT training is important or the entrance exam for IIT is important, we need both. We'll not get the degree unless we do the IIT whole 4 years of program, and we'll not even get the entry in the IIT unless we take the entrance exam. So Karma Yoga is like the entrance exam, and Jnana Yoga is the actual degree studies that we do. So both are important. There is no choice between them. So then what is Karma Yoga needed for? I just touched upon it already, but in this context, what is Karma Yoga needed for? Yes, it is right that it is needed for Chitta Shuddhi, which is purification of mind. Because unless the mind is purified, it is difficult for the jnana to settle in our mind, to get it established. So it has to be clean, it has to be pure. If for any magnifying glass to actually work, it has to be clean. So this is what Karma Yoga is there for. And once we clean it, that's when we get the yogyata, that's when we get the qualification for the mind to actually go for the higher purpose, to get the Jnana Yoga. What does Krishna do in Gita? Does he preach or does he teach? And what is the difference between the 2? So let's first talk about what are these 2 terms mean as per Swamiji. Preaching means telling someone what to do based on my understanding. If I tell you, you go do this or you don't do that, or if Krishna says go just fight, if Krishna were to tell that, then all these 18 chapters were really not needed. But Krishna did not choose the path of preaching. He instead chose the path of teaching, in which he explained everything to him. What is good, what is bad, what is shreyas, what is prayas, why you should do something, why you should not do something. And at the end, he leaves the decision up to Arjuna himself. He does not decide for him. So that is what is called teaching. And maybe that is something that we can also learn in our lives, that whenever we are trying to influence something or make some change happen, then we should rather choose the path of teaching rather than preaching in any setting in our life. Now, very specific question to 3.1 to 3.7 verses that we covered today. Which ashram is suitable for which objective? Grihasthāśrama is for Jnana Yoga or Karma Yoga, and Sannyasa Ashram is for Jnana Yoga or Karma Yoga. I think it is straightforward that Grihasthāśrama is for Karma Yoga and Sanyāsa Ashram is for Jnana Yoga. Mainly these 2 ashrams are being talked about. Obviously, there are other 2 ashrams also, but these 2 are being focused on here. Now, as per Krishna, which one is the least preferred option? Is it that I choose the Grihasthāśrama to get purified and then use Sannyasa Ashram to attain knowledge, or use Grihasthāśrama through and through for both purification as well as knowledge gaining, or directly go to Sannyasa Ashram, do the karma there itself to become purified and then attain knowledge? As per Krishna, the last option is the least preferred one. because it is very hard also. It's not meant for majority of the people. So for majority, I think the second option is generally extolled, which is remain in grihasthāśrama, purify yourself. Then we don't really need to wear all the ochre robes and go out in the jungle or forest and all. We can still be where we are and still mentally do the sannyasa. At birth, what are we? Are we jñānis, karma yogis, ayogis? Or what are we? So what is being told is we are ayogis. We are unfit for jnana yoga, and that's why we need to do karma yoga. We need to do certain actions in dharmic way to kind of build our appetite for doing karmas which are non-binding. And that's how we build our muscle for jnana yoga. And that's when we become the opposite of ayogis. So at birth, we are all ayogis. We need to, obviously there are certain exceptions when, you know, like Shankaracharya and all, but this is mainly talked about the majority. The best way to get rid of the problems of grihasthāśrama is to become a sannyasi. Just run away from all the problems and become a sannyasi. Then is that the best way to handle all the samsara problems? The answer is false. That is not the way. We need to use those problems to actually learn from our experiences and develop our competence and purify our mind. And then we can enter into sannyasa ashrama. The word pravritti nishtha refers to sanyāsa, grihastha, vanaprastha or arogya ashrama. Answer is grihastha ashrama is the pravritti marga and the other ones are nivritti marga. This is the pravritti, an active social life designed for karma yogis. Now, is this a statement true or false? Sannyasa alone cannot give moksha. Knowledge alone can give moksha. It's the self-knowledge which can alone give moksha. That's a true statement. For how long can we live without doing any action? I think it's straightforward. Not even 1 second. We'll at least blink our eyes. We'll do something. There is not even a second we can live without doing action. So that's not even really an option. The act of physically giving up sense objects is important. It is okay if the mind just dwells on it. So I am not getting into contact of all the sense objects and I'm shutting myself down from everything. Is that okay? The answer is no, because if your mind dwells on it, it's rather a more dangerous proposition. So it doesn't have to be suppressed. It has to be really regulated. And why we should not avoid karma? I think we have discussed this mainly because one is inaction does not guarantee peace of mind. It's not that if I'll not do anything, which is, as we see in the second point, it's not even possible, but for the sake of argument, if I don't do anything, my mind is still continuing to do all its jugglery. So it is not guaranteeing me peace of mind. It is not even possible in the first place. And then it will lead into mental longings. So overall, this is not a good idea. We should do karma. We should use our experiences to learn and purify ourselves. Which one is not true? Grihastha should reduce his arthakama at all costs, whether it is suppressing the desires or anything. And in the second option, it says reduce them, fulfill them, but in a sense regulated manner. That is the right answer, because for sannyasi, desire, there has to be only moksha desire. So the first one is not true, which is that it is not that at any cost we have to reduce it. You have to just do it in a regulated manner. Thank you, sir. Hari Om.
Thank you, Ullas, for a wonderful quiz time. We'll come back with Disha 11 on Monday, 30th May. Before that, this Friday on 27th May, we will continue with our study of Kshetrajna Yoga, Chapter 13. Please log in by 6:45 p.m. on Friday. Hari Om. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavachishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.